Alright, so this is what could have been Spider-Man 3. This is basically like, I haven't seen this video, but I know like a whole lot of different, like, I guess scripts or whatever that Spider-Man 3 was supposed to be, how it was supposed to be when it first came out. I don't know if this one's going to be different. I'm not entirely sure, but we're going to watch this and see what they say, and I'll just give my thoughts since, I'm not like a Spider-Man fan or nothing like that. So, yeah, we're going to get into this.
When Spider-Man 2 came out in 2004, it raised the bar for what a superhero film could be. Not only did it feature bigger and more thrilling action sequences, but it also explored the burden of...
Which, before we even talk about this, Spider-Man 3, I watched it so many times when I was younger. So many times. And I'm not saying it's the best Spider-Man movie by any means, but a lot of people hate it, like a lot. And I don't think it's that bad, to be completely honest with you. I don't know if that's a hot take. Like, I could see, like, so many reasons why people wouldn't enjoy it. And it's not the most enjoyable Spider-Man movie or superhero movie either. But I think Spider-Man 3, you can still have fun with it and get enjoyment out of it, especially, like, with the whole Bully Maguire thing and all this and that. Like, there's a lot of funniness and there's a lot of seriousness, and if you're just a Spider-Man fan and you're here for the movie, you get certain characters, but you don't get them as necessarily the way you want. But I don't know. I just don't think it's that bad of a movie. I don't know. Let me know what you think about it. Yeah.
being a superhero and the personal cost of balancing a double life. So naturally, following its critical and commercial success, expectations were insanely high for the third entry of the trilogy.
They love me.
But unfortunately for fans, the film was unable to stick the landing.
Oh my God.
Director Sam Raimi himself has since voiced disappointment with the end result and jokingly called the film awful. But when he and his brother Ivan first sat down to outline what would become Spider-Man 3, they envisioned a very different film than what we got. So let's take a look back at what could have been Spider-Man 3. Unfortunately, even at the start of development, Raimi wanted to retcon Uncle Ben's death to make Sandman his killer. Not only did he want Peter to grapple with seeking vengeance, but he wanted to make him feel that he had much more in common with the villains he faced. And while I certainly appreciate the journey of vengeance and ultimately forgiveness that Raimi wanted Peter to go on, I feel Uncle Ben's death already served as Peter's catalyst for becoming Spider-Man, and bringing it back into the narrative felt kind of unnecessary. Not only that...
Yeah, when they showed that, like, it kind of, like, not justifies, but it, like, shows Peter, like, oh, I killed an innocent man. Not necessarily innocent, because that guy still was, like, a piece of shit, but not Sandman, the original killer. Not the original killer, Michael. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Of Uncle Ben. I don't know the guy's name. But, like, it makes it like, damn, he didn't kill him? And it's like, it makes you feel a certain way, but I don't think that even needed to happen in the movie. I don't think Sandman necessarily needed to be, like, the killer. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
But it also recontextualizes Peter letting this guy fall to his death.
Yes.
Having said that, in this version of the film, Sandman would have teamed up with Vulture. After being defeated and then apprehended by Spidey in the film's opening during a robbery, Vulture would have been thrown in jail, leaving him to develop an intense hatred of Spider-Man, similar to Peter's lust for revenge against Sandman. Speaking of Sandman, he and Vulture would find themselves sharing a cell, where Vulture would talk him into joining his quest for vengeance against Spider-Man. The two would then devise a prison break and corral other escapees into wreaking havoc on the city in order to draw out Spidey and wear him down with the goal of finally pouncing on him at his weakest moment. Now, since this went through several revisions, there are two different versions of this ending with Vulture. The first has Vulture escaping to set him up as the main antagonist in the fourth film, while the other ending has Peter offering Vulture a truce, which he would refuse and then die during their big fight, thus illustrating to Peter the ramifications of an inability to forgive. Ben Kingsley was in negotiations to play the role before producer Avi Arad stepped in and argued that Vulture didn't make for a compelling villain, given as he had no personal ties to Spider-Man beyond petty vengeance. In addition to this, Arad reportedly told Raimi that he felt the series had featured too much of Raimi's personal favorite Spider-Man villains instead of characters modern fans were actually interested in.
Yeah, like, Vulture, I mean, me being a Spider-Man fan, like, I like all his villains for the most part, but Vulture is like a side villain. He's not like a Doc Ock or like a Venom or any of those types of characters. Like, he's like a character who's with characters. So, like, even Sandman is like a side character. So I do think it is kind of different. Like, if you do have them team up, you know, then it's like, okay, this is cool, but it's kind of like they're not fit, but they don't bring enough impact to like the Spider-Man like story, if that makes sense. Like in a movie, like the Vulture in Homecoming is super good, but it was also done very differently. But I don't know.
Namely, Venom. After dragging his feet, modern fans were actually interested in, namely, Venom.
Yes.
After dragging his feet, Raimi reluctantly agreed and nixed Vulture and replaced him with fan favorite Venom. Unfortunately, what we got wasn't the Venom we had all come to know and love. Instead, Raimi made Eddie Brock more of a mirror image universe version of Peter, removing the anti-hero side of him and making him a full-on, unlikable villain.
Oh, you're being filmed. That's why you're so charming.
That's not. Oh, please. I'm a very no.
I'm joking.
And not only did Raimi make Eddie Brock smaller in stature too,
So
but he did
small.
the same to Venom, making him sound more like a baby velociraptor versus the terrifying and intimidating symbiote we're all familiar with.
Eyes, lungs, pancreas. So many snacks, so little time.
And if you thought this
Which I'll tell you, I hate the way that they portray Venom in the Venom movies. But I love like his size. I love his face. I love all that. He's just missing the spider, but he hasn't came in contact with Spider-Man. But yeah, I hated how in Spider-Man 3, like Venom, he's just so small and skinny, and he doesn't sound like him. He's not freaky. He's just Spider-Man with a mouth, essentially.
studio and producers were done meddling, I've got some bad news for you, as they only requested more additions. At their insistence, Raimi was forced to shoehorn Gwen Stacy into the mix too. Raimi's original goal was to just stick with our core characters and progress their relationships to the next logical step, but the studio only wanted more! Raimi now had to balance Peter's main journey of revenge and forgiveness, establish Sandman and his backstory, introduce the symbiote and Eddie Brock and Black Suit Spider-Man, conclude Harry's arc, explore Peter's ongoing relationship with Mary Jane, and introduce newcomer Gwen Stacy. That's a lot to juggle
that's
in one
too much.
2-hour film, and with so many plot strands, Raimi began to explore splitting the film into 2 parts. The only reason he abandoned this strategy was he and his team couldn't come up with a satisfying cliffhanger to close out part 1, and thus settled for making one overstuffed movie. Also, it's worth noting that up until late in production, the film had a very different climax. Earlier in the film, while Peter is still possessed by the symbiote, he all but destroys his romantic relationship with Mary Jane and begins dating Gwen Stacy instead. Then during the climax of the film, instead of kidnapping Mary Jane, Venom would have kidnapped Peter's current girlfriend, Gwen Stacy. One of the reasons Raimi initially wanted to do this was because he didn't want yet another climax that featured Mary Jane as the damsel in distress. Not only that, but by adding Gwen to the climax, it would have increased the tension and the stakes, as every comic book fan knows that Gwen eventually dies by
Yes.
falling to her death. However, I imagine Raimi changed this to Mary Jane to add more motivation for Harry wanting to team up with Spider-Man, as he's not only coming back to help his friend, but to save the woman they both love too. This is why Gwen basically disappears from the rest of the film after the infamous jazz club scene. One of Raimi's key collaborators that was noticeably absent from Spider-Man 3 was composer Danny Elfman, responsible for creating Spider-Man's iconic theme and score. Now, before I explain why they had their falling out, I need to give a little bit of context as to the post-production process first. For those unaware, the musical score is recorded after the edit is locked and is one of the last things that's added to the film. While the film is being edited, however, what will often happen is temp music will be laid down in its place, later to be replaced by the finished score. One of the things that caused the rift between Elfman and Raimi on Spider-Man 2 was that Raimi stubbornly grew attached to the temp score used in the rough edit of the film, which hindered Elfman's creativity when it came time to compose new music for the film, as Raimi basically forced him to copy the temp music. And I imagine the temp music was just reused cues from the first film. While Elfman called working on Spider-Man 2 a miserable experience, he more famously said of his relationship with Raimi that one day it was like Raimi went to sleep, somebody put a pod next to him, and when he awoke, he wasn't the same person Elfman had known known for the last decade. Fortunately, both men eventually were able to reconcile and have since worked together again. However, Elfman's absence did give us this iconic musical motif, which I'll have to sing for copyright reasons.
Yeah, that music's so hard.
Still, as an Elfman fan, I can't help but wonder what he would have done musically with Black Suit Spider-Man. Speaking of Black Suit Spider-Man, it's also worth noting that had we got the original version of this film, we wouldn't have gotten emo Peter and this moment, which, dude,
the thing is, like, it's cringy, but it's also, like, it's nostalgic since I watched it so many times, but it's so funny. It's such a funny meme. And I don't know, I'm glad we got it.
On who you ask is either terrible or a cinematic masterpiece.
Yes.
Personally, I always thought this was a riot and a callback to the raindrops keep falling on my head sequence from Spider-Man 2. But I know there's
that whole scenario, dude, is so... Oh my god.
Plenty out there who hate it. I do think, however, a lot of people miss the point of this sequence. Not only does the symbiote remove your inhibitions, but keep in mind Peter's an awkward dork. And this is what his idea of cool, cocky, and arrogant looks like. Even if to us, he just looks ridiculous and cringeworthy. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
Because even like when you're sitting here watching, like he thinks he's the shit, but look at these girls, look.
Like, even if to us...
Look at this girl. Look at this girl. They're like, what the fuck?
He just looks ridiculous and cringeworthy.
And he thinks he's hard. He's like, oh, I'm the shit.
While Raimi did his best to make this all work, ultimately this film collapsed under its own weight. Raimi has since come out and said that he didn't believe in all of the characters, and I imagine he's mostly referring to Venom and Gwen Stacy. And if the director's heart isn't in it, chances are that's going to be telegraphed on the screen too. To his credit, producer Avi Arad has since revealed that he regretted forcing Venom on Raimi, and that it was unwise to force a filmmaker to work with characters they just aren't passionate about. After feeling like he let the franchise's fans down after Spider-Man 3, Raimi wanted to make it up to them with Spider-Man 4, and looked to feature Vulture as the film's primary villain, as well as Felicia Hardy, aka Black Cat.
When I was younger, I always was under the impression that Carnage was supposed to be in Spider-Man 4. And he was supposed to kill Mary Jane. Venom was supposed to be in it. Like, in Spider-Man and Venom would have to team up. Like, that's just the impression I was under when I was like, I don't know, like 13 or something.
Fortunately, Sony had other plans and wanted Raimi to also include the Lizard too. This time, however, Raimi dug in his heels and, not wanting to overload the film with too many characters and storylines like the last one, refused to back down. Reaching an impasse, both he and the studio ultimately agreed to part ways. It should be noted, however, that Raimi was also unsatisfied with the Spider-Man 4 script, even after going through numerous revisions, and his inability to get it to a place he liked in order to begin shooting and meet the summer release date may have also played a factor in his departure. Never say never, however, as Tobey's introduction into the multiverse may have opened a door, or a portal, for the possibility of a 4th Raimi film.
Yeah, if that happens, dude, oh my god, it has to be huge, especially like with the way like the CGI and technology is now. Like, imagine what Spider-Man 4 would be. And I don't even think they would do Vulture, or maybe they would. Maybe they would take their old script and bring it to life and just run with it and see what happens, and just try to make a really good, cool Spider-Man movie. Maybe, I don't know. Like, not even try to make like an Infinity War style based like impact. Just make a good Spider-Man movie.
Comments below if that's something you'd like to see, and if you haven't already, don't forget to please hit that subscribe button so you can be first in line to see what I got coming at you next. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah, this was a good video. I mean, I am like, if they would have done Vulture and Sandman, it still wouldn't have stuck to me. Especially because, like I said, Vulture is not a huge problem for Spider-Man. The reason why in Homecoming he's such a big deal is because Peter's still technically a child in a sense. Not grown man Peter Parker. In Vulture, like I said, like he only has so much he can do. And like that's why he would have to team up with Sandman, but it's like, I don't know. If you had Vulture, you'd have to have like a bigger threat with him. But I don't know. This was a good video. I kind of want to watch more stuff like this because this was actually extremely interesting, and I hope that we do get Spider-Man 4 at some point because I feel like it's well needed is what I think. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Yeah, I just want more Spider-Man.